Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining me from today. I want to welcome you to day 8. Okay, this is day 8 of our Kingdom Genius experience, and I want to really appreciate you for joining me since we started. It's going to be a wonderful day today again. All right. We're going to get into what we have planned for today. And by the way, if you have been following me since we started 8 days ago, I believe that by now you should have a clear understanding about your purpose, your giftings, which of course is your kingdom tool that God, put inside of you, natural kingdom tool that God positioned inside of you for you to explore, for you to build, for you to, to develop in order to deliver your life purpose, which is your life assignment. So we have talked about the progression. We have talked about how to move from where you are using your gift, using everything that God has given to you to deliver your assignment in life. So I'm going to focus on something else today. And by the way, today is not just another day. Today is one of the days that I want you to pay close attention to, because we are getting close to what you need to, to have. Because every day is important. What you need to have in your hand in order to deliver all that you need. Because this 10-day series basically is all that you need for you to be able to deliver your life purpose and to lead the way God really wants you to lead. So I'm going to be focusing on raising leaders today. Okay, raising leaders. Most people don't understand this primary assignment. In fact, most ministry leaders don't understand this primary assignment. They focus on building the building. They focus on building. When I say, whenever I say building, I'm talking about physical building. Now, there is nothing wrong in expansion, okay, in scaling. For example, if you look at McDonald's scales, you can see their franchise, everywhere. You can look at Chick-fil-A, Chick-fil-A scales, you can see their franchise everywhere. The same thing happens about several other companies in Africa, in the US, in the UK, in Australia, and other parts of the world. But here's my point. The most important thing that you need to focus on is people. People are the greatest assets that you have as a leader. And this is why Jesus focused on people. Remember that our primary, our standard, okay, is Jesus. Our leadership standard is Jesus. And that's our primary focus. And it is imperative for you as a leader to pay close attention to what Jesus did. His practices. We call those practices his ways. Okay. So raising leaders is one of the most important things that you need to pay close attention to as a leader. Raising leaders, okay? You cannot get the best out of everything that you are doing in life without raising leaders. For you to get the best out of everything that you were designed to deliver on earth, for you to build a sustainable organization, a sustainable family, because not every family is actually sustainable. Let me repeat that, and I'm going to tell you why. Not every family is sustainable. There are many families today that don't understand what it means to build for the next generation. Okay, and that is what I mean by sustainability. If you want to learn more about that, I will encourage you to go to my YouTube channel. I posted a video 2 days ago about family leadership. Please go and listen to that video. Very short video, like 8-10 minutes. I believe it's around 12 minutes, right? Please listen to it again and again. Play it for your children, play it for your spouses, play it for your wife to be, your husband to be, to start thinking about what it means to develop a family that can create a generational impact, because that's what it's all about. You are not here to just add to the number of people who are living in the world. You are here to deliver something significant that God really wants you to deliver. You are here because you are very important to God. You are here to make something great happen. Okay, because you have value inside of you. All right, and let me tell you this. There is a reason why God decided to place you in that family, because I know many times we complain, many times we just we get worried about, why am I black? Why am I brown? Why am I white? Okay, why did God drop me in Africa? you know I remember I had a conversation with a group of people one time, and seriously, one of the things that we were discussing was about why God decided to drop us in Nigeria. you know this happened probably around 20 years ago, right? And I was like, yeah, I have no idea why that God did not drop me in Australia or drop me in Europe. But you know what? There is a reason why God decided to put you where you are, where God decided to place you in that family, because God understands, God knows everything. He started the project and he knows the end of the project that he started. By the way, you are the project. You are God's project with God's design, with God's architecture. So God understands your totality. God understands your values. He understands your ability. He understands your inbuilt. He understands what He puts in you already, and the kind of value that God wants you to add to that family, so that you can expand it to that community, so that you can extend it to your state, to your nation, to your industry, and start creating impact. So let's look into the practices of Jesus, how Jesus raised leaders, and how you can as well focus on his practices to also raise leaders wherever you are. Let me say this: you are God's design. God is the master designer, and He made you in His own image, after His likeness. That means you also have the ability to design. God is a master system creator. God is a master structure creator. Okay? The best structural designer that I've ever seen, that I've ever came across. Every time I read the Bible, I see how God designs. I see how God designs. Anytime I read the Psalms, I see how David express his expressions, and how he talks about God's power, his glory, his designs. Okay, but here is the point: you have the capacity to design as well. That's what I'm saying. You have the capacity to design. So how can you design what will outlast your season? Because everyone has a season. Recently I had a chat with one political leader, and then we're chatting. She lives in Abuja, and then we're chatting, and then she said, she was just talking about a lot of because she works there as an appointee. And then she was like, I've worked with several elected political leaders, and she was talking about this man's season, the other one's season. Yeah, we all have our seasons. Okay, and by the way, your growth level also has a season. So you need to know when you need to move to another level of growth. So the test of your leadership is not what you build, it is who you build. The test of your leadership, it is not what you build, it is what you build. And that is why you don't focus on building things for your children. You focus on building your children for the future. There is nothing wrong in leaving several inheritance for them, like lands, like investments, like several things, for their future, to protect them. But the most important thing that you need to focus on in building and creating a legacy and leaving impact, and you know and leaving a mark that can never be erased, is what you leave inside of them. Not what you leave for them, but what you leave inside of them. So why most leaders build followers, not leaders? I'm going to start with that, because everything I'm about to spill right now is completely against the kingdom structure. Remember, as an ambassador, you are a kingdom executor. As a kingdom executor, you are a kingdom practitioner. That means you are practicing the things of the kingdom. So I'm going to give you three major reasons why most leaders build followers, not leaders. Because they just want the crowd to follow them. In fact, at some point, Jesus, you know, if you read the gospel very well, you will understand how Jesus was very curious about the crowd. When his group grew from 12 to 70, he was very curious, and he began to look at them like he wanted to know why they were following him. Right? Okay, I'm going to talk about that as we move on. I will talk about that as we move on. So let me focus on these reasons. Number one reason is insecure leaders. Insecure leaders. Insecurity is one of the biggest issues why most leaders don't build leaders, because they are insecure leaders. Okay, what does that really mean to have an insecure leader leading you or around you, or for you to point an insecure leader? Number one, they are threatened by talent. They are threatened by talent. Jesus was never threatened by talent. In fact, Jesus identified talent, identified potential, identified the future, and invited them in the present to follow him, to impact them, and in order to release them. So he knew their future. He knew they were local champions, local people in their communities, but he showed them a future. I will make you. I will make you a fisher of men. I mean, does that sound very familiar? Now, he was not threatened. No, 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 he was not threatened. In fact, he told them that greater work shall ye do. So he pointed something greater for them, because he wanted them to do something greater more than what they saw. Wow. 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 I think that is something that we need to study and follow. Insecure leaders are threatened by talent. Insecure leaders, they keep people dependent. They want to make sure everyone is dependent on them. Insecure leader, they want people to they want people to stay within their control. The moment you leave that control, then you're going to have a problem. Automatically, you're going to have a problem. The moment you identify such leader, then you have to be very, very careful. Because if you are not careful, then you won't release your full potential. And unfortunately, some of them are not aware of what they're doing. So it is imperative for you, especially if they are people maybe that maybe people who are paying your salary, or people who you are serving under, or people that you see, you just you honor, right? Not because you don't know who you are, but you just give them that honor. If they are that kind of people, then you have to know how to control yourself. because your focus should be what God is saying, not what man is saying. Does that make sense? Okay. Let God be true and let all men be what? Liars. So, number two, a busy leader. Number one is what? The insecure leader, okay, because of insecurity. Number two is the busy leader. That's why they don't build leaders. And why? They have too consumed with execution to invest in developing people. In fact, you know what? This is one of the biggest problems in scaling. They focus on doing everything. They are the one doing all the tasks. Instead of impacting people, investing in people, delegating, and then allowing people to get the job done. Are they going to make mistakes? Yes. Are they going to mess up? Yes. Are they going to disappoint you sometimes? Yes. Oh, study Jesus and see how Peter disappointed Jesus. Look at how disciples disappointed Jesus. In fact, a disciple disappointed him when he wanted to feed the 5,000. Jesus asked the disciples what that they should feed them. Feed them. Don't let them go hungry. They said there was nothing to eat. That was nothing. They had to just go. But Jesus wanted to test them. That's what the scripture says. He wanted to what? To test them. Anytime God asks you a question, you have to be careful. Not because God does not know the answer. Okay? So if a leader is too busy with tasks, with things that he or she is supposed to train others to know how to do in order to move to something bigger and then delegate those tasks. And today, in our world today, there are many tools today. AI is there, LLM is there. There are several other tools that many organizations are built that you can take advantage of and use them to to make your operations better. Okay. Number three, the accidental leader. Woo, don't miss this one. And I don't want you to be one. I don't want you to be an accidental leader. Never had a leader raising system. Imagine a leader who hopes that leadership development happens suddenly, that people development happens suddenly, that people will just develop by themselves, that people will grow by themselves. So you leave their growth for them. I want you to imagine that kind of an organization. Definitely, that kind of leader is also an accidental leader. It's a leader that is not intentional about his or her growth. See, every time a leader grows, you will definitely experience a new realm of knowledge and revelation. Every time a leader grows, you will always experience a new realm of knowledge and revelation, because when the leader grows, everything grows. And that is why everything rises and falls on leadership. So imagine a, a lot of people were following the rabbis, the Pharisees, and the Sadducees. Jesus saw them and said, look at them, that they were just like sheep without shepherd. For them, they thought they actually had shepherd. So they were following the shepherds. They were following their own shepherd, but they never knew that they did not have any shepherd. Jesus did not see the shepherd, did not see even any shepherd among them. And here is the problem. Many times we believe or we think that the position makes the leader. No, the leader creates the position. And that is why you need to become a leader. And then when you become a leader, you have the capacity to create positions. Every one of these patterns, the insecure leader, the busy leader, the accidental leader, if you can see a pattern all through. Every one of these patterns produces the same outcome: an organization that dies with the leader. That is the one thing that this kind of leadership produces. When your leadership produces an environment where things happen by accident, where intentionality is not the focus to build people, to help people to grow, then eventually you are going to produce an environment where people just grow accidentally. And when you leave things to happen accidentally, then that kind of organization cannot scale and become sustainable. So, what is the multiplier mandate? The multiplier mandate is what we can find in Second Timothy verse 2, chapter 2 and verse 2. 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 2. In fact, you can call it 222. Just remember Timothy and remember 222. All right. And the things you have heard me say in the presence of many witnesses, entrust to reliable people who will also be qualified to teach others. That sounds like transferring what you have to others, right? That sounds like you have heard me, I've said them, you've seen me demonstrated those things. It is your responsibility for you to also teach others, to entrust all those things to others so that they can also be qualified. What is that thing that will make them qualified? They can only be qualified when you transfer those things to them so that they can as well be qualified to teach others. That was Paul talking to Timothy. So Paul raised Timothy, and Paul was telling Timothy to also do what? To raise reliable people. And when those reliable people are raised, he was also telling him through this statement that, hey, raise reliable people who can as well raise others. And those who are raising others, can you imagine? That's a generation already. Timothy is one. And then Timothy hands over to reliable people who are also going to raise others. So the same templates was given to Timothy. He was instructing him, give it to others, let them be qualified so that they can raise others who are going to be qualified and then continue to raise others who are going to be qualified. And that's how it continues. It becomes something that outlasts the creator, the designer, Timothy. And that instruction was given to him by Paul. This is what I call the multiplier mandate. The multiplier mandate is a system that a leader creates through what he says or she says, through what he does or what she does, through the integrity and the character of the leader in order to create generational impact. And here's the principle. One generation of intentional investment creates 4 generations of exponential impact. So this is not a leadership strategy. It is a kingdom strategy. It is a kingdom principle. It is a kingdom law. Okay? So how can you identify talent? As a leader, because your responsibility is identifying kingdom talent. And for you to do that successfully, there are 3 questions that you must master. 3 questions that reveal who is ready to be raised. How can you identify people that are ready to be raised? Because it is important to understand and for you to be able to identify people who are ready, people who want to become, okay, and then pour yourself into them. So what are the things that you need to pay close attention to in order to find those people? You need to watch for important things: excuses, blame shifting, neglect of the ordinary. The first question I will ask you is, do they honor what they have? Do they honor what they have? Because faithfulness is 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 very critical. Faithfulness in small things predicts the capacity for big things. Luke 16 and verse 10. Whoever that can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. Before you promote, watch how they steward current responsibility. John Maxwell says something that I love. He said, I have never promoted anyone who has not reproduced someone that will replace him or her. And that's very correct. So that tells me that you have successfully reproduced yourself. That means you have replaced yourself. That means you are ready to leave that role to move to the next role, because you already have someone who can take care of your role. That is the main thing that you need. So you need to be watching for excuses. You need to be watching for blame shifting. I didn't do it because, okay? Those who are neglecting the ordinary, people who don't know who they are, people who are not carrying the responsibility, people who are not fulfilling the mandate, people who are not pushing the mission. You need to focus on that. People who are receiving salary, but they are not investing into the business. People who are just doing what they are told to do, who are not thinking, who are not, ready to move and to make more things happen. Number 2 question. Do they pursue growth in their own? On their own, rather. Do they pursue growth on their own? Do they grow? Did they look for ways to grow? You need to be watching for 3 things. Number 1 is reading, asking, learning without being told. Are they reading? Are they readers? Are they asking questions? Are they pursuing knowledge to know more without being told, hey, go and sign up for a program? No. Are they pursuing themselves? You need to look for, okay, let me make this statement. Raise leaders who are already leading themselves. Remember, you cannot lead others if you are not leading yourself. So a person who only grows when you push them to grow, when you push them to make something happen, that is the only time when they make decisions to grow. That kind of person will become an accidental leader eventually. So if everything you can do it. But these are the things you need to pay attention to know that someone is ready for the next level. So you cannot scale what only moves when you are present. If those people are not moving, or if that person is not moving, making things happen, or they are only moving when you are present, then that person is not ready to follow you into the future. That person is not ready to be raised by you. Or when the person is also believing that, what I know, and the person is not ready to actually learn from you as the one who is leading, then there is a problem. Now, as a leader too, you have to be humble enough to learn from everyone, because you don't know everything. Okay? And because people can actually repel when they realize that the leader knows it all. They can ask questions. They can't even make any suggestions, because the leader starts the conversation and ends the conversation. Now, that is not true leadership. If you want to lead them well, you need to create the kind of culture that requires that. Now, that leads me to the 3rd one. I just mentioned the word culture. The 3rd one is, do they reproduce the culture or just the skill? Now, that talks about transfer. Are they transferring? Are they influencing people the right way? So you need to watch for some things. Number 1 thing you need to watch for is how they treat people when you are not watching. And that talks about their private life. Sometimes I tell people that you cannot separate your public life from your private life in leadership. No. Imagine if God put a camera on you, and that camera records everything you do, and everyone you lead sees that live recording. Now, ask yourself, will you continue to do or to say some of the things you say or do in the private? If your answer is yes, continue. But if your answer is no, then that means you have to be conscious about things you say and do in the private. Because you might say, oh, nobody sees me, but God sees you. And He's the one who is preparing you for the next level that He wants to position you into. All right. So skill transfer is very important. Are they transferring their skills? Are they creating culture? I call it culture multiplier. Are they culture multipliers? So you need leaders who carries the value. You need leaders who carry the spirit. You need leaders who carry the mission. You need leaders who are not just technically competent, because you need competence, for implementers. But by the time you start promoting people, then leadership skills are very critical, because you don't need just competence when people are promoted into leadership roles. Okay, now they have been promoted in that leadership roles to do more work about people leadership, not just competence anymore. You need both technical skills and people skills. And the higher you go, the lower the competence, the competent, the people skill, goes up. So the more the need of that people skill. Okay, so you have to think about the totality of your own growth, the totality of your own life, and look for, okay, how can you identify talented employees who are in your organization that you need to promote to your next level? You have to think about all these questions and then start working with them to prepare them for the next level. And let me give you 5 major stages of intentional multiplication. Number 1 is observe. True leaders observe. Remember, your end point is to multiply leadership, like Jesus did, from 12 to 70, from 70 to 120, from 120 to about 3,000, from 3,000 to what we have in the world today, more than 2 billion people, an organization that started just, about 2,000 years ago. So let me say this. If you follow these 5 stages, then that means you have practically applied the 5 stages that Jesus also applied. Okay, if I'm teaching in the business world, I'm going to teach the business people the same 5 stages. If I'm teaching in the church, I will teach the pastors, I will teach the leaders in the church the same 5 stages. If I'm teaching the politicians, the government agencies, I'm going to teach them these 5 stages. So I'm giving you these 5 stages today, and I'm saying, please pay close attention to this, because these are kingdom systems that you can master, you can implement in your organization. Your end point is to multiply leadership. So I call this the leader development pipeline. Now, number 1 is observe. You have to observe. I do, you watch. Remember, that was what Jesus did. Follow me and I will make you. So Jesus was doing things and the disciples were watching. You are building intentional leaders. Okay, you expose them to your process, your decisions, and your leadership thinking. Don't worry about your failures, because you are going to make mistakes. So they need to see you in the mess. They need to see you. They need to see your errors. They need to see how you say sorry. They need to see you how you apologize. They need to see how you feel sometimes too. They need to see all those things if you truly want to build people who can truly become great leaders. They need to see. Okay? And that's why Jesus went to some places with different people. Okay? Jesus did not go to the 12 to everywhere. Jesus did not visit everywhere with the 12. He went, he went with 3. Sometimes, to some places, he went with 1. Okay? So Jesus knew the people that were needed in every place. So you need to identify the people, understand who is your 1, who is your 3, who are the people that need to be part of your 12, right? And then think about how you want to multiply. So observe. When you bring people together, I do, you watch. Number 1. Number 2 is assist. I do, you help. You have to support them. You're assisting them, because sometimes they will make mistakes and you support them to make it happen. Okay? You support them to make it happen. So give them real responsibility in low risk situations. Let me give you an example. There was a time the disciples wanted to heal a man that was sick. Okay? And that boy that was sick. And then they tried, they couldn't. And then Jesus came into the situation. The man told Jesus about what happened. The disciples could not. And Jesus faced the disciples. and rebuke them. How long shall I be with you guys? You're supposed to know by now that, hey, I'm not going to be with you forever. So this kind of situation, you have to add fasting to it. I know you guys have prayed, but fasting is needed to be added to this one. Okay. So Jesus assisted them, and then Jesus went into the situation and solved the problem. So they needed assistance at that time. Jesus assisted them. So as a leader, you can assist them. I do, and then you support them. Now, number three is supervision. You supervise them. You do now, and I guide. So you are now behind. They are now in the front. They are doing it, and then you are supporting them gradually. So they are now the one leading, and you are behind, just watching, just guiding. Now, at this time, you are a coach. Okay, you are not a consultant at this time. Okay, a consultant is right there in the field getting the job done. Okay, you are not a consultant. You are not just recommending and then implementing the work. Okay, seeing the work implemented. No, 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 no. You are now guiding. You are now in the back. You are asking questions. You're just supporting. That's all you are doing. Let them be the one on the field doing the play. All right, you are coaching them, you are debriefing everything, you are showing them their wins, you are adjusting, you are showing them their area of failures. Well, you don't call it failure, call it opportunities for improvement. Okay, so that they can continue to grow and improve. Number four is you delegate. Now, this time around, you do, I trust. Okay, say, here is my biggest challenge when we talk about delegation. Many leaders don't understand that these three things, these three stages must be taken care of before you move to the last stage. You don't move to this last stage, I mean to this fourth stage rather, until you go through the first three stages. Because if you have not gone through the first three stages and you jump to this fourth stage, you are going to make a lot of mistakes. So when you delegate, you have to trust. Let them execute. They are going to make mistakes. You have already tried them. You've tested them. They've gone through the examination. And now it is time for them to shine. And you watch. So you set direction and hold them accountable in delivering the outcome, the expected outcomes. Okay. And finally, number five is to multiply. And you train others. So now you are giving it to them. You do it and you train others, just like what Paul did. Paul told Timothy in 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 2 to do what? To do everything that he told him to do, and then to make sure he pass it on to others to be qualified and then to teach others. So he was talking about generations after Timothy, not just the one immediately after Timothy, but the ones after Timothy. Was talking about exponential growth. Okay, exponential growth. That's exactly what Paul was describing to Timothy. That think about generational impact. Think about something that will outlast you. Okay, so you do, and then you train others. Now it is their responsibility now to do the same thing. They will have to do it and then equip their own people, observe their own people and pour everything into them. And everyone that you have poured into needs to continue to do the same. That is how to start multiplying leadership intentionally. And it must start with you as the leader, whether you are the business owner, whether you are the ministry leader, whether you are the government leader, whatever role that you play in the society, you have to understand these five stages of intentional multiplication. And the fifth stage is very critical, and that is the proof of stage 5. They are now running their own pipeline. You have gone through the pipeline to make sure that they grow as leaders and they become leaders who can also multiply leadership. Now, that is your proof when they start functioning in that space. And leaders grow where the culture makes growth non-negotiable. Okay, and I just want to encourage you as a leader that you have to start thinking about the kind of environment that you build in order to multiply leadership. Okay, because right now we are talking about the practices of Jesus, right? We've gone through the person of Jesus, the purpose of Jesus, the principles of Jesus. Now, practices is is basically practical, right? So think about permission, permission to fail. You have to create an environment where you allow people to fail. It's important. If you don't let people fail, and if you don't create an environment where people feel comfortable to fail, then you will realize that everybody will be trying to, be careful, too careful, and they don't want to fail because they know there are consequences. They can get fired, so they don't want to fail. They don't want to innovate. They don't want to create. They just want to stick to the instruction. This is what we have been asked to do, and this is what we will do. That kind of environment can never be creative. Will never be innovative. Number two, let people have access to you. Proximity is the classroom. Okay, let them watch you decide. Let them see you negotiate. Let them see you solve real conflict. Let them see you lead under pressure. See, observation is its own curriculum. Okay, it is not about what you are saying to them that you did. Let them see you as you are doing it. That is true leadership. Most leaders don't want to do that because they don't want people to see their errors. In fact, when people see you make mistakes, that is the best way to transfer leadership to people. All right, and they will respect you for that. And then be open, create an environment of feedback, because feedback it's a gift. You have to see it as a gift. Don't see it as a problem. The moment you start seeing feedback as a problem, then you have not created a culture that is sustainable for acceleration. Create a culture where truth is spoken with care and then received with humility, because feedback is not criticism. They are not the same thing. So you have to identify what is feedback and then see it as a gift. Lastly, the kind of culture you should create is a celebration culture. Celebrate people's growth, celebrate it, and don't envy their growth. If you do that, what you are building, because there are three ways for you to kill what you are building. In fact, there are three ways leaders kill those people they are raising. So let me tell you what stops good leaders from raising other leaders. They are good leaders, but they stop raising other leaders. Number one is ownership trap. I talk about this every time. Don't be trapped in owning everything. You are the one that needs to sign everything. You are the one that everything needs to go through. I understand. At some levels, there are some things that you can sign, that you have to sign. Okay, as the as the CEO, as the founder, as the one in charge, right? But there are some little things that you can delegate so that everything does not come to you. So you need to shift your identity from the one who does everything to the one who builds the ones who is doing everything. Okay? You need to shift that. That's how you can create legacy. Create legacy in their hands, not yours, because you want them to also be able to get things done. Number two is comparison trap. You have to be careful about this one. This one is very, very, very important. I see this every time. When they don't lead like you, and you want them to think and lead like you. They don't think like you. They don't micromanage like you. They don't override people like you. Quietly you just undermine them because they don't see things like you, and you want them to see things like you. Like, why can't you guys see things like me? No, hey, they are different. They are different. In fact, it's a problem if they start doing things like you. So celebrate their differences. Let them be unique in their own way. Position them according to their giftings. Visit changegeniusai.com. That's exactly what that platform does. That platform solves that problem. It will help you to know where to place people, and to place people according to their strength, according to their gift, and according to their passion. That's what it does. Because Jesus raised 12 leaders with 12 distinct personalities. Why? Because diversity in style is not weakness, it is strength. The last one is the urgency trap. Okay, development takes time, and the business is always urgent. You want to get the business done, and you don't want to develop people, or maybe after developing them they are going to leave me. No, don't worry. Whatever you are put in them, when they leave, they will continue to remember it, because they will continue to use it wherever they go, and they will continue to remember that everything started with you and through you. So let me leave you today with this next move. Don't leave today without these three decisions. Number one decision, name your own Timothy, just like the way Apostle Paul named his own Timothy. Look at 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 2. He named his Timothy. And then he gave his Timothy instructions, and then he poured and followed those 5 stages that I mentioned, to his Timothy, and he followed and did the same thing, and he created a pathway to generational impact. Number 2, build your pipeline. Those 5 stages, you have to build them and follow them carefully. Number 3 is decide your legacy question. Your legacy question is very, very important. You need to start thinking about it now, and you need to start thinking about how you want to deliver what God has put inside of you. I strongly believe that you have everything that God wants you to deliver. You have everything inside of you, and you have the power to become all that God wants you to deliver and all that God wants you to become in the world. Thank you very much for joining me today. Raising leaders. And I strongly believe that the reason why God designed you the way you are is for you to also raise other people, all right, to become. So don't let it stop or end with you, because your responsibility as a leader is to raise other leaders. God bless you, and have a wonderful afternoon or a wonderful evening wherever you are joining me from in the world. And bye for now. See you tomorrow. Scalable leader.